The sleeping giant awakens. The stars above Earth had been watching in silence for 50 long years. To every alien race in the galaxy, the blue planet looked dead. No radio signals pierced the darkness of space. No ships launched from its surface. The orbital stations that once buzzed with human activity now drifted like empty shells, their lights long extinguished. Even the moon bases had gone completely dark, leaving only shadows where humanity once thrived. Captain Zethkar of the Catherian. Confederation adjusted his scaled hands on the command console of his scout vessel, the Void Seeker. His yellow eyes studied the tactical display showing Earth's position in the Sol system. After 5 decades of absolute silence, the Confederation had finally decided to investigate. What they found confirmed their worst fears about the fragile species called humans. Atmospheric readings show the planet is still habitable, reported his second-in-command, Lieutenant Yexal. But there are no energy signatures, no technological emissions, nothing that suggests active civilization. Zethkar nodded slowly. The humans had always been different from other species. While most races expanded outward when they achieved spaceflight, humans had seemed content to stay close to their home world. They built stations and colonies, yes, but they never ventured far. They never joined the great galactic community. They remained isolated, mysterious, and ultimately vulnerable. Prepare the claim beacons, Zethkar ordered. By Confederation law, any abandoned world in this sector becomes available for colonization after 50 years of inactivity. Earth qualifies. Deep beneath the surface of Earth, in a vast underground complex that stretched for hundreds of miles, Dr. Elena Vasquez felt the subtle vibration that meant something had entered Earth's detection grid. She looked up from her research terminal, her dark eyes reflecting the soft blue glow of the massive quantum computers that surrounded her. The underground city of New Geneva hummed with quiet activity, its bioluminescent lighting creating an almost peaceful atmosphere, despite the advanced technology everywhere. Area report. Elena spoke to the air, knowing the AI was always listening. The response came immediately, not through speakers but directly into Elena's neural implant. Alien vessel detected in high orbit. Configuration matches Catherian design. They appear to be conducting surface scans. Elena stood and walked to the central command chamber, her footsteps echoing off the polished stone walls. The underground facility had been humanity's greatest secret for half a century. While the surface world had appeared to die, 10 billion humans had actually moved below ground, creating a civilization that surpassed anything they had achieved on the surface. Commander Jake Morrison was already waiting in the command center, his weathered face serious. At 65, Jake had spent his entire adult life preparing for this moment. He had been a young soldier when humanity made the decision to disappear, to let the galaxy think they were gone while they prepared for whatever came next. How many ships? Elena asked as she joined him at the main tactical display. Just 1 scout vessel for now, Jake replied. But you know they're not here for tourism. 50 years of silence means we're fair game for colonization under Galactic law. Elena studied the holographic display showing the alien ship in orbit. It was sleek and powerful, designed for both exploration and combat. The Catherian Confederation had been expanding aggressively for the past century, claiming abandoned worlds and turning them into military outposts. Earth, with its perfect atmosphere and abundant resources, would be quite a prize. Area. What's the status of our defensive systems? Elena asked. All primary systems are online and ready. The orbital defense network has been dormant but functional. Surface installations are prepared for activation. Underground military facilities report full readiness. Shall I initiate protocol emergence? Elena exchanged a look with Jake. Protocol. Emergence was the plan they had hoped never to use. For 50 years, humanity had lived in secret, developing technology that would make them competitive in a galaxy full of advanced alien civilizations. They had studied every species, learned every language, and prepared for the day when their isolation would end. Not yet, Elena said finally. Let's see what they want first. On the Void Seeker, Captain Zethkar was growing frustrated. His deep scans of Earth's surface showed signs of past civilization, but everything appeared abandoned. Cities stood empty, their buildings slowly being reclaimed by nature. The great human megastructures like the International Space Elevator showed no signs of activity. Even the electromagnetic spectrum was eerily quiet. "It's almost too perfect," Lieutenant Yexal observed. "Most species leave some trace when they abandon their worlds. The humans seem to have simply vanished." Zethkar's scales rippled with unease. Something felt wrong about this situation. In his 40 years of military service, he had never encountered a dead world that felt so watchful. Every sensor sweep seemed to meet resistance, as if something was actively masking the planet's true nature. "Begin standard colonization protocol," he ordered. "Deploy the claim beacons and begin atmospheric modification preparations. The Confederation will want to move quickly on this world." As the first claim beacon launched from the Catherian ship, heading for Earth's northern hemisphere, alarms began sounding throughout New Geneva. Elena and Jake watched on their displays as the alien device descended through the atmosphere, its purpose clear to anyone who understood galactic law. "They're claiming Earth," Jake said grimly. "Once that beacon plants itself and activates, they'll have legal authority to colonize." Elena closed her eyes for a moment, feeling the weight of 10 billion lives resting on her decision. Humanity had spent 50 years preparing for this moment, but she had hoped it would never come. The surface world had been sacrificed to give them time to grow strong enough to stand among the stars as equals, rather than victims. "Aria, initiate protocol emergence," she said quietly. "It's time for humanity to come home." The effect was immediate and spectacular. Across Earth's surface, camouflaged installations began to activate. What had appeared to be natural hills and forests suddenly revealed themselves as massive defense platforms. The claim beacon, still descending toward the surface, found itself surrounded by a web of energy fields that gently but firmly redirected its trajectory away from the planet. On the Void Seeker, Captain Zethkar's bridge erupted in chaos as his sensors registered energy signatures unlike anything in their databases. The supposedly dead planet was suddenly blazing with technological activity that made his advanced Catherian ship look primitive by comparison. "Captain!" Lieutenant Yexal's voice cracked with shock. "The planet's entire surface is lighting up. I'm reading massive energy constructs, orbital platforms coming online, and something's jamming our claim beacon." Before Zethkar could respond, his communication system activated without his permission. The face that appeared on his screen was unmistakably human, but there was something different about her. Her eyes held a depth of knowledge and experience that seemed impossible for such a young-looking species. "This is Dr. Elena Vasquez speaking for the people of Earth," she said calmly. "Your claim beacon has been rejected. This world is not abandoned, and we do not require colonization assistance." Zethkar found his voice after a moment of stunned silence. "Impossible. Your species has been silent for 50 years. Our sensors show no surface activity, no technological emissions." Elena smiled slightly. "That's because we've been busy, learning to live quietly. We've been watching, listening, and preparing. Your Confederation isn't the only one capable of advanced planning." As if to emphasize her point, the space around the Void Seeker suddenly filled with ships, not the crude vessels Zethkar expected from historical records of human technology, but sleek advanced craft that seemed to bend light around them. They had been there all along, invisible until they chose to reveal themselves. Commander Morrison appeared beside Elena on the communication screen. "Captain Zethkar, your ship is currently surrounded by 12 vessels of the Earth Defense Force. We have no intention of harming you, but we also cannot allow you to proceed with colonization of our world." Zethkar's training warred with his shock. The humans were supposed to be a primitive species, barely capable of interplanetary travel. The ships surrounding him represented technology that surpassed even Confederation standards. How had they advanced so far while remaining completely hidden? "What do you want?" he asked finally. Elena leaned forward slightly. "To talk. Your people have been expanding across the galaxy for a century. claiming worlds and building an empire. We've been watching and learning. Perhaps it's time our peoples had a proper conversation about the future of this galaxy. In the depths of New Geneva, millions of humans were experiencing sunlight for the first time in their lives, as massive screens throughout the underground city showed the surface world awakening. Gardens that had been tended by automated systems for 50 years bloomed in the artificial light. Cities that had stood empty began to show signs of preparation for rehabilitation. Aria's voice reached Elena through her implant. Global systems are at full operational capacity. All human populations are ready for surface emergence. The galaxy is about to meet the real Earth. Elena nodded, her eyes still fixed on Captain Zethkar's shocked expression. Humanity had spent 50 years becoming something the galaxy had never seen. A species that chose patience over aggression, preparation over conquest, and unity over division. "Captain," she said softly, "humanity never left. We just learned to dream bigger than the surface of our world. Now we're ready to dream among the stars." The galaxy's new reality. The emergency session of the Galactic Confederation Council convened. Within hours of Captain Zethkar's first contact report, representatives from 18 different species gathered in the Great Crystal Chamber of Nexus Prime, their various forms of communication creating a buzzing symphony of confusion and concern. At the center of the chamber, a holographic display showed the impossible: Earth, alive and bristling with technology that defied everything they thought they knew about human capabilities. High Counselor Vextai, a towering crystalline being whose species had founded the Confederation 3 centuries. Ego studied the data with growing unease. The Catherian scout captain's report read like science fiction. Invisible fleets, underground cities housing billions, technology that could mask an entire planet's energy signature for 50 years. If true, it changed everything about the balance of power in their galaxy. "The implications are staggering," announced Counselor Fremjak of the Aquarian Collective, his translator rendering his aquatic communications into standard galactic speech. "A species capable of such deception could infiltrate any of our worlds, observe our activities, prepare for conquest." But it was Counselor Yilneth of the Peaceful Botanical Union who raised the question that made everyone uncomfortable. Or, perhaps they were preparing for survival. We must ask ourselves, why would a species choose to hide rather than join our community? On Earth, Ambassador Sarah Chen stood in the newly constructed Surface Embassy, a building that had risen from what appeared to be a simple hillside in the Swiss Alps. Through the floor-to-ceiling windows, she could see the first human civilians in 50 years walking on grass, breathing unfiltered air, and looking up at a sky they had only seen in recordings. Sarah had been chosen for this moment not because of her diplomatic experience, but because of her unique perspective. At 93 years old, she was one of the few humans who remembered the surface world before the Great Descent. She had been a child when humanity made the decision to disappear, and she had spent her entire adult life preparing for the day they would return. "The Confederation Council has agreed to formal contact," Arya announced through the embassy's communication system. "They're sending a diplomatic vessel with full ambassadorial authority. Estimated arrival, 36 hours. Dr. Marcus Webb, the terraforming specialist who had designed much of the underground civilization, looked up from his datapad. 36 hours to prepare for our formal introduction to galactic society. Think we're ready?" Sarah smiled, her weathered face reflecting decades of quiet confidence. "Marcus, we've been ready for 50 years. The question is whether they're ready for us." The diplomatic vessel Harmony's voice approached Earth with a mixed crew representing 7 different Confederation species. Ambassador Kolthis, a dignified reptilian from the Zenthari Republic, had been chosen to lead the delegation because of his species' reputation for calm negotiation. But even his composed demeanor was tested as his ship's sensors registered the true scope of human achievement. "Remarkable," whispered Dr. Nayara, the Confederation's leading xenobiologist. "The energy readings suggest they've essentially built a second civilization beneath the surface. The engineering required, it rivals anything we've achieved." Captain Lisa Torres of the Earth Defense Force personally escorted the alien delegation to the surface embassy. As their shuttle descended through Earth's atmosphere, she watched their faces with quiet satisfaction. The gasps of amazement as they saw the awakening cities, the vast agricultural domes, the fusion of natural beauty with advanced technology, all confirmed what humanity had hoped. They had become something worth respecting. The formal meeting took place in a chamber designed to accommodate the physical needs of multiple species. Ambassador Sarah Chen sat across from Ambassador Cultis, with their respective teams arranged around a circular table made of Earth's finest materials. The air hummed with translation devices and biological support systems, but beneath the technical complexity lay a simple truth: two civilizations meeting as equals for the first time. Your species has achieved something unprecedented, Cultis began, his voice carrying the formal tones of diplomatic protocol. To maintain such secrecy while developing such capabilities, it suggests planning that spans generations. Sarah nodded. It does. When humanity first became aware of the greater galactic community, we realized we had a choice. We could remain on the surface, vulnerable to conquest or absorption by more powerful civilizations, or we could take time to become something that could stand among the stars as partners rather than subjects. The Zenthari ambassador's scales rippled with what Sarah had learned to recognize as thoughtful consideration. Your choice required enormous sacrifice, an entire species agreeing to live underground, to appear extinct to the galaxy. How did you achieve such unity? Through shared purpose, Sarah replied. We realized that our strength lay not in military might or territorial expansion, but in our ability to adapt, to innovate, and to work together toward common goals. Every human alive today was born into a civilization dedicated to preparing for this moment. Dr. Webb leaned forward. We studied every species in the Confederation. We learned your languages, your cultures, your technologies. We developed solutions to problems you didn't even know existed. We've been preparing not just to survive contact, but to contribute to the galactic community. The alien delegation exchanged looks of surprise. Counselor Yilneth's plant-like form rustled with excitement. You've been preparing to help us? Not to conquer or compete? Captain Torres smiled. Competition assumes scarcity. The galaxy is vast enough for all of us to thrive. We've spent 50 years learning that cooperation achieves more than conquest. Ambassador Cultis studied the humans with new understanding. You chose to appear weak while growing strong, not to strike at us, but to be worthy of joining us. Exactly, Sarah confirmed. We wanted to earn our place among the stars. As the formal negotiations continued, reports began flowing in from across the galaxy. Human observation posts, hidden in asteroid fields and on the edges of solar systems, were revealing themselves and offering their data to local authorities. The information they had gathered over 50 years of silent watching was beyond valuable. It was transformative. Plague outbreaks that had baffled alien scientists for decades were suddenly explained by human medical researchers who had observed the patterns from afar. Trade route inefficiencies that had cost the Confederation billions were solved by human logistics experts who had studied the problems without the political constraints that prevented local solutions. Most remarkably, several colony worlds that had been struggling with environmental problems received visits from human terraforming teams who had spent decades developing solutions specifically for those worlds. The help was offered freely, without expectation of reward or territory. High Counselor Vextai's crystalline form resonated with frequencies that indicated deep thought as he addressed the emergency session. The humans have fundamentally changed our understanding of strategic development. They sacrificed immediate gratification for long-term strength. They chose preparation over expansion. They built a civilization based on contribution rather than consumption. The revelation that humanity had been watching and learning created a ripple effect throughout Confederation space. Some species were alarmed by the implications of such extensive surveillance. Others were amazed by the dedication required to maintain such secrecy. But gradually, a new perspective emerged. Counselor Frem Jack of the Aquarian Collective, spoke. For many, when he said, "Perhaps we have been asking the wrong questions. Instead of wondering why they hid from us, we should be asking what they learned about us during their observation, and more importantly, what they can teach us about ourselves." The formal treaty negotiations took 3 months, but the real change happened in the first week. Humanity's patient approach to problem solving, their emphasis on long-term planning, and their genuine desire to contribute rather than conquer created a new model for galactic civilization. Trade agreements were signed that benefited all parties. Research partnerships were established that promised to advance every species' understanding of science and technology. Most importantly, a new approach to expansion was adopted. Worlds would be developed cooperatively, with each species contributing their unique strengths to create something greater than any could achieve alone. As Ambassador Sarah Chen stood on the surface of Earth, watching the stars where human ships now traveled openly alongside their alien partners, she reflected on the long journey that had brought them to this moment. 50 years underground had seemed like an enormous sacrifice, but it had given humanity something more valuable than territory or resources. It had given them wisdom. "Aria," she said to the AI that had helped guide human civilization through its hidden years, "do you think we made the right choice?" The AI's response came through the warm evening air, no longer confined to neural implants, now that secrecy was no longer necessary. "Sarah, we chose to grow in darkness so we could bloom in light. Looking at the galaxy now, I believe we chose correctly." Above them, the first joint human-alien exploration vessel prepared for departure, its mission to explore the galaxy's uncharted regions not as conquerors but as partners in discovery. Humanity had finally found its place among the stars, not as the strongest or the fastest, but as the species that had learned the most important lesson of all. Sometimes the greatest strength comes from knowing when to wait, when to watch, and when to work together. The calm above Earth had finally broken, and what emerged changed not just the galaxy, but the very definition of what it meant to be truly powerful.